सनातन गौतमाख्यम् यस्मिन्निदं जगदशेषमशेषमूर्तौ रज्ज्वाम्बुजङ्गम इव प्रतिभासितं वै। प्राणसेदं वशे सर्वं पृथिवेय प्रतिष्ठितं मातेव पुत्रान् रक्षस्व त्रिज्ञप्रज्ञां च विधेयन इति। गुरुपादुक स्तोत्रम्। അനന്ത സംസാര സമുദ്രതാര നൗകായിതാഭ്യാം ഗുരുഭക്തിദാഭ്യാം വൈരാഗ്യ സാമ്രാജ്യതഭൂജനാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം കവിത്വവാരാശിനിശാകരാഭ്യാം ദൗർഭാഗ്യദാവാം ഭുതമാലികാഭ്യാം ദൂരീകൃതാനം പ്രവിപത്തതിഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം നതായയോ ശ്രീ പതിതാം സമീയോ കദാചിതപ്യാശു ദരിദ്രവൈര്യാ മൂകാശ്ച വാചസ്പതിതാം ഹിതാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം നാലീകനീകാശപദാഹൃതാഭ്യാം നാനാവിമോഹാദിനിവാരികാഭ്യാം നമജ്ജനാഭീഷ്ടതതിപ്രദാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം നൃപാലിമൗലീവൃചരത്നകാന്തി സരിദ്വിരാജാജഷകന്യകാഭ്യാം നൃപത്വദാഭ്യാം നതലോകപങ്ക്തി നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം പാപാന്തകാരാർക്കപരംപരാഭ്യാം താപത്രയാഹീന്ദ്രഗഗേശ്വരാഭ്യാം ജാഢ്യാബ്ധി സംശോഷണപാഠവാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം ശമാധിഷട്കപ്രദവൈഭവാഭ്യാം സമാധിദാന ഹൃദദീക്ഷിതാഭ്യാം രമാധവാംധ്രീ സ്ഥിരഭക്തിദാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം സ്വാർച്ചാപരാണാം അഖിലേഷ്ടദാഭ്യാം സ്വാഹാ സഹായാക്ഷധുരന്ധരാഭ്യാം സ്വാത്താച്ച ഭാവ പ്രദപൂജനാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം കാമാദിസർപ്പജഗാരുടാഭ്യാം വിവേകവൈരാഗ്യനിധിപ്രദാഭ്യാം ബോധപ്രദാഭ്യാം ധൃതമോക്ഷദാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം നമോ നമ ശ്രീ ഗുരുപാദുകാഭ്യാം. മൂകം കരോതി വാചാലം പങ്കും ലംഘയതി ഗിരിം യത്കൃപാതമഹം വന്ദേ പരമാനന്ദമാധവം യം ബ്രഹ്മാ വരുണേന്ദ്രരുദ്രമരുതഃ ഉന്വന്തി ദിവ്യൈസ്തവൈ വേദൈ സാംഗപദക്രമോപനിഷദേ ഗായന്തി യം സാമഗാഃ ധ്യാനാവസ്ഥിതതദ്ഗതേന മനസാ പശ്യന്തി യം യോഗിനോ യസ്യാന്തം ന വിദുഃസുരാः സുരഗണാഃ ദേവായ തസ്മൈ നമഃ. സർവധർമാൻ പരിത്യജ്യ മാമേകം ശരണം വ്രജ അഹം ത്വാ സർവപാപീഭ്യോ മോക്ഷയിഷ്യാമി മാ ശുചഃ. Slokas 21 to 30. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. ॐ श्रीकृष्ण परमात्मने नमः। अथ षष्ठोऽध्यायः ध्यानयोगः। श्रीभगवानुवाच सुखमात्यन्तिकं यत्तद् बुद्धिग्राह्यमतीन्द्रियम् वेत्ति यत्र न चैवायं स्थितश्चलति तत्त्वतः। यं लब्ध्वा चापरं लाभं मन्यते नाधिकं ततः। यस्मिन् स्थितो न दुःखेन गुरुणापि विचार्यते तं विद्या दुःखसंयोगं वियोगं योगसंज्ञितं स निश्चयेन योक्तव्य योगो निर्विण्णचेतसा सङ्कल्पप्रभवान् कामान् त्यक्त्वा सर्वान् शेषतः मनस्सैवेन्द्रियग्रामं विनियम्य समन्ततः शनैरुपरमेत् बुद्ध्या धृतिगृहीतया आत्मसंस्थं मनः कृत्वा न किञ्चित् विचिन्तयेत्। यतो यतो निश्चरति मनश्चञ्चलमस्थिरं ततस्ततो नियम्येतत् आत्मन्येव वशं नयेत्। प्रशान्तमनसं ह्येनं योगिनं सुखमुत्तमम् उपेति शान्तरजसं ब्रह्मभूतमकल्मषम्। एवं सदात्मानं योगी विगतकल्मषः सुखे स्पर्शम् अत्यन्तं सुखमश्नुते सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मनि ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः। यो मां पश्यति सर्वत्र सर्वं च मयि पश्यति तस्याहं न प्रणश्यामि स च मे न प्रणश्यति। ॐ तत्सत्।
Hari Om. Before we commence the class today, we should pay our respect and homage to the great Sevak Kalidas ji, who attained the lotus feet of Gurudev earlier this week. And as a mark of respect, we'll chant Mahamrityunjaya Jap 7 times before we commence today's class. Hari Om. Om Trambakam Yajamahe Sugandhin Pushtivardhanam.
Sivardananam.
Okay, Sukumar, you can continue. Hari Om. Okay, I will start. Om Trambakam Yajamahe Sugandhin Pushtivardhanam Urvarukumiv Bandhanan Mrityumukshiyamamritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhin Pushtivardhanam Urvarukmiv Bandhanan Mrityumukshiyamamritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhin Pushtivardhanam Urvarukmiv Bandhanan Mrityumukshiyamamritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhin Pushtivardhanam Urvarukmiv Bandhanan Mrityumukshiyamamritat. Om Triambakam Yajamahe Sugandhin Pushtivardhanam उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्युमुक्षीयममृतात्। ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्युमुक्षीयममृतात्। ॐ त्र्यम्बकं यजामहे सुगन्धिं पुष्टिवर्धनम् उर्वारुकमिव बन्धनान् मृत्युमुक्षीयममृतात्। Hari Om. Now we will start with our usual class with the recap of verses 26 and 27. So the verses 26 and 27, which were under discussion last week, the verse 26 begins, and it is especially meant for the fickle-minded people, as Gurudev has mentioned in his commentary. So the advice given here is to bring the mind under control. So here there is a subtle differences which come out within the commentary. So in terms of mind, there are two aspects highlighted. One is that it has to be kept away from all the agitations because it is chanchal and it is unsteady, it is asthira. So one element is controlling the sense organs. And once the sense organs are under the control, still there is a possibility that mind, because it has got disturbed by its past memories and experiences, it will again, go away and get into the old ways of thinking and progressing. And then, that this is like what we call an axle as a circular loop, because once the old memories get revived, again there is a possibility of losing the control over the sense organs which one has attained. So here the Lord's advises that whatever be the reason, whatever be the cause of the restlessness and unsteadiness of the mind, one should just bring it back into the thoughts of the self and should just concentrate on the self and self alone instead of letting it wander. He should bring his mind back and it should be under the sway of the self alone. This is the message of verse 26. Coming to verse 27, the message is that once the agitations of the mind have reduced, and as in how the mind is coming under the control of the yogi, he will start feeling the infinite bliss, and the supreme will start surfacing in him. He will be able to, attain that kind of a status which is called Brahma Bhuta, and he will start experiencing that inner peace, and his agitations will die away. The ego will be defeated, and the ego is removed. Once the ego is removed, what will appear? The mind will die, and it will be only the reflection of the supreme in the uh, mirror of your intellect, and that will uh, take you very close to the status of self-realization. This is what I understand from the last two the verses 26, 27. And now I will ask Sampadaji to commence today's class. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Having this explained the achievements of a true mediator, the Lord explains how the experience of the self can be thereafter, the constant life of the perfect one. युज्यन एवं सदात्मानं योगी विगत कल्मषः सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम अत्यंतम सुखम अश्नुते. Yujin, practicing yoga. Evam, thus, Sada, always. Atmanam, the self. Yogi, yogi. Vigata kalmashaha, freed from sin. Sukhena, easily. Brahma sansparsham, caused by contact with Brahman. Atyantam, infinite. Sukham, bliss. Ashrute, enjoys. The yogi always engaging the mind thus in the practice of yoga, freed from sins, easily enjoys the infinite bliss of Brahman contact. Engaging himself thus in the battle for evolution and the consequent inward mastery, a mediator steadily grows out of the shadow regions of his own spiritual ignorance and imperfections to smile forth in luxurious extravagance into the sparkling sunshine of knowledge. When the mediator keeps his mind undisturbed in the roaring silence within, in the brilliant white heat of meditation, his mind gets purified, like a piece of iron in the blacksmith furnace. In short, as we said earlier and elsewhere, refers Swamiji's meditation and life. The halt moment is the last possible frontier line up to which human effort can raise the mind. There it ends itself just as a balloon, as it goes higher and higher, blasts itself in the ra- in the rarefied atmosphere of the higher altitudes and drops down, merging the balloon space with the space in the altitude. Similarly, the mind too, at the pinnacle of its meditation, shatters itself and drops down, leaving the ego and merges with the Supreme, just as the space in the balloon automatically and naturally merges with the space outside when once the balloon is exploded. So too, when the finite mind is ended, with its with ease it attains the infinite bliss arising out of its contact with Brahman. The term contact here has served as a convenient handle for the dualists to argue that the Lord is indicating thereby the existence of the truth principle as separate from the truth seeker. Obviously, this is absurd. The argument of the dualist can be acceptable only if we can afford to forget the definition of the term Brahman. In the Hindu scriptures, Brahman is the all pervading reality, which is limited by nothing. Ishavasya Upanishad 1, 4, and 5. And therefore, we cannot have a knower of Brahman or a feeler of Brahman who has a separate existence to come to come in contact with Brahman and enjoys the bliss. It can only mean if a consistent sense is to be read in the scriptures that the individual seeker becomes Brahman and comes to experience the infinite beatitude. It is the essence of the truth. Krishna is here trying to make an agitated, restless, inquisitive intellect understand that the positive and the dynamic reality can and shall be gained when the mind and the intellect are transcendented. Had he said, the seeker will become happiness, Arjuna would have hesitated to accept it, believing that in the self there is no positive joy. To make his unprepared intellect perceive the experienceable joy of the infinite, the divine cohort has to borrow a vivid phrase from our ordinary life, and so he says that the mediator attains the infinite bliss through the Brahman contact. This phrase, Brahman contact, should be understood as a self contact, in contrast to the finite joys which we ordinarily gain in life through the non self contact. In the following stanzas, we get a description of the effects of yoga and the consequent perception of oneness in the pluralistic world. सर्वभूतस्थ आत्मानं सर्वभूतानि च आत्मनि ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः. Sarvabhutastam, abiding in all beings, Atmanam, the self, Sarvabhutani, in all beings, Cha, and Atmani, in the self, Ikshate, sees, Yoga Yuktatma, one who is harmonized by yoga, Sarvatra, everywhere, Samadarshanaha, one who sees the same everywhere. With the mind harmonized by yoga, he sees the self abiding in all beings and all beings in the self. He sees the same everywhere. All religions in the world are great, but indeed, none of them is as perfect as the religion of Hindus. If by religion we mean the science of self perfection. In this stanza, the author of the Gita says unequivocal terms that the perfect man of the self knowledge or God realization is not merely the one who has realized his own divinity, but is also the one who has equally understood and has come to live in an intimate knowledge and experience of the divinity inherent in all creatures without any distinction whatsoever. The awareness in us is the awareness everywhere, in all the names and forms, and this divine awareness is the very essence in the entire world of perceptions and experiences. To contact the infinite in us is to contact the eternal everywhere. To a true man of realization, in Hinduism, there is no more world to be addressed, even if it be in divine compassion by the disgusting phrase, O ye children of sin. Like Ramtirtha, a Hindu saint of perfection, could not but address the entire living kingdom as, O ye children of light, or address them as my own self in the form of ladies and gentlemen. This idea of consummate revelation of God I am, gained by the meditator, is the perk of perfection endorsed and aimed at by the Hindu seers. This idea has been the most effectively brought out in this stanza. That this pluralistic phenomenon is a manifestation of and a projection upon the immortal truth is very well brought out in almost all Gita chapters. Thus, the essence in all the names and form is the same transcendental self, just as the mud in all mud pots and the gold in all gold ornaments, the ocean in all waves, the electricity in all bulbs. The self is the essence and the substratum in the entire world of objects. Through the physical body, we perceive the physical world, and from our emotional level, we perceive the emotions in others. So, too, from our intellectual level alone, can we intelligently contact the ideas working in other intellects? As it has been asserted in the previous chapter, when an individual transcends himself beyond his intellect, he comes to rediscover his own divine nature. From that spiritual center, when he looks out, he finds the self to be pervading everywhere. The mediator on transcending his intellect becomes the self. And to the self, there is nothing but the self everywhere. To the mud, there are no pots. To the gold, there are no ornaments separate from itself. With this understanding in our mind, the stanza becomes quite clear when it says, He beholds the self in all being and equally beholds all beings in the self. Such a perfect one who has realized the actual unity in the world of diversity alone can afford to entertain the equality of vision in all circumstances and conditions on a noble Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a pariha. Gita 5.18. Hari Om. In these shlokas, Lord Krishna orders Mumukshu to perform the rituals of yoga's practice consistently. He tells us that before studying this yoga practice, the seeker should retire from his mind from the subject and purify from the anger itself. As long as the truth is given to the universe and the subject has the attraction and man gets attracted towards it. This truth is not given by the universe, but given by the intellect. When the subject is given truth, there is an illusion of happiness, and the mind starts running after the subject. It will run after the subject one after the other, like we are mad for our own shadows. If a wise man consider all forms of karmas and the karmic fruits comprehensively, he understands that all karmas and the karmic fruits are limited, perishable, and impermanent. And then only he can be able to attain the Vairagya. A person also should understand the true nature of the subjects by thinking again and again with cautions and not following them emotionally. This is the real Purushartha, how one can expect the eternal happiness and joy from perishable, limited, impermanent subjects. Destruction is the nature of the visible universe. Yat martyam tat dukkham, yat drushtam tat nashtam. If you understand that the universe is false and impermanent, is not the full knowledge, or it does not understand the whole truth also. This means a seeker only understands the nature of the universe, but does not understand the transcendental truth, what the transcendental truth is. Therefore, such a sadhaka should surrender to the Guru with undivided attention. He should continuously study to acquire the Shadgunas. Without these Shadgunas qualities, the self-realization is not possible. By practicing the Samadhi Abhyasa continuously for a long time, you can automatically become fixed in the self, and the self becomes his nature. And the distance between the seeker and the achievement ends. When this can be attained, the state of simple, absolute, self-evident Brahman form. In this, the soul and all the words ends together with the ignorance, and he attains the bliss and infinite Brahman form. In this sloka, the nature of the infinite joy that a yogi gets is told by the Lord Krishna. And the next sloka, Lord is telling about the vision of the right knowledge, what is the nature and what are its symptoms. He who sees the form of self in all bhutamatras and all bhutamatras in swasrupam attains the Parabrahma Roop. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you so much. We move to Balaji sir for his views.
Hari Om, Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai. A few words of remembrance of Kali ji before I actually start. Kali ji is, to me personally, I have gained a lot from Kali ji's words. What have I gained? The lost experience of not meeting Sri Gurudev in person is something which was to a large extent offset by my meetings with the Kaliji. The Kaliji was very, very instrumental in inculcating and fostering my Guru Bhakti, I should say. For quite a few years in the pre-COVID situation, every Aradhana day, that is August 3rd, for almost 4 years, we used to meet in Gurudev's Samadhi in Siddhabari. And every year, at least on August 3rd, we used to meet. And then usually 1 week prior to that used to be our meetings. And every time I meet Kaliji, there are so many experiences that have been shared. And many of them, so we can, I mean, in the sense that I came to know a lot. And also, after he is departed from his physical form, I'm sure, without any doubt, he's merged with the Gurudev. And somebody in the group had given this title of Chinmaya Garuda, very aptly. I think Ram, my friend. Chinmaya Garuda, meaning that they referred to, he was carrying Gurudev all over the world through Air India, where he used to work. And that's where he met with Gurudev first time, just above the Guruvayur temple. So there is a narration of how he met with Gurudev and did Shashtanga Namaskaram at just above the Guruvayur temple. So that's how he first has met with Sri Gurudev. Anyway, Chinmaya Garuda, in the sense that he is not only that carrying him in the air everywhere, but Kaliji was carrying Gurudev with him every second. So that is, I say, practically he was living with Gurudev as Gurudev and sharing all his experiences and goodness. So one of the, whatever the verse today is describing, is somebody, Kaliji, we can say that he was Sadatmanam. That word, for him, Atmanam was Gurudev. For him, everything was Gurudev. He was Sada Gurudev. So that is, I just wanted to connect to that part also. Plus, ultimately, the great experience, many chats, many experiences. I have recorded a few of them. I've heard a lot of them. I've written some notes. It was a wonderful experience. So we will be missing Kaliji, but he will ever remain in our memories. Sadguru Nath Maharaj ki jai on that subject. And 28 and 29, very beautiful verses of very high experience. Only Sri Gurudev can write such a commentary for such a verse for us dumbheads to understand in so easy terms. Yunjan evam sadatmanam yogi vigata kalmashaha. Vigata kalmashaha, here we know one who is free of sins, meaning prasanna manasa, without any agitations. All sins have been lost, and then the mind has been very quiet, without any agitation, able to integrate the mind and the intellect, get the intellect to work on the mind and the mind to work on the sense organs, and thereby having a complete control of the mind and putting it in contemplation to the self. So that Yunjan Eva means, this is what it means, to getting the mind under the control of the intellect. And this is what in 26th verse also we saw, Nischarati Manasa, Chanchala Manastiram, it is always Nischarati. Gurudev has given a beautiful example, which I happened to see yesterday. He says the mind is like the wheels of the car. You are driving the car, it is quite natural for the car's wheels to go here and there in its journey when you start moving it. So it has to move here and there, it has to wander here and there. However, the steering it back on time is in your hands, in your self-effort of being alert, applying the intellect, getting it under control, putting it into the direction of the Brahman. Otherwise, the same mind will take you all around the world and not to the goal or the destination. Nischarati, that word, very beautifully Gurudev has explained, and how it can be controlled. Atmanyeva Vasam. Atmanyeva Vasam means getting it under the control of the Atman, Vasam, to hold it steadily in contemplation with the self. That Yunjan Evam is having this much meaning and much more. And Sukhena Brahma Samsparsham, that word with great significance, Brahma Samsparsham, Atyantam. Also, we are hearing this word for the first time, Atyantam. Sukham Ashnute. Atyantam infinite. Sukham Ashnute attains the bliss infinite. Many times in our explanation, we say that to be in contact with the infinite and the finite, the OET. Now, this verse is also a straight contrast and opposite to Matras Parshestu Kaunteya 2.14, wherein there, what is the Sparsha is with the OET. Whereas here, the Sparsha, the contact is with the Brahman. There, what happens? Matras Parshestu Kaunteya Sitishno Sukadukada Agama Paino Anityam. That contact will give you Anityam Sukham. It will be flashes of joy followed by greatness of sorrow, and it will be ups and downs. That way you have to Tvam Titikshasva Bharata. So you have to develop fortitude in facing the challenges of life. Advice given there. Here what happens? Brahma samsparsham, and the result is Atyanta Sukham. Infinite bliss. Atyanta. Very nice word. I'm sure Sanjay ji is going to elaborate a lot. And the following verse, of course, after gaining that Atyanta Sukham and the experience of the Brahma Sparsha, samsparsham, it is what is earlier told also in many places, ultimate culmination of such realization of the self, and by knowing the self and by the practice of yoga, what do we gain? We gain samadarshanaha. That is the ultimate result of such meditation and contemplation and the experiences of meditation, and in realizing the self, we become Samadarshanaha. Now, here, what is the Samadarshanaha? Gurudev again puts it very beautifully. Ocean in motion. One who is able to see all the waves, not as waves, but ocean in motion, is a Samadarshanaha. One who is able to see the gold behind all ornaments. It is not a bangle, it is not a ring, that is all names and forms. Gold is gold. Your ability to see through the ultimate essential reality, essential nature of everything in this world is the self only. So he beholds the self in all beings and equally beholds all beings in the self. Sarva bhutastam atmanam sarva bhutani cha atmani. So it is everywhere, whatever he sees, whether he sees it from his perspective or from the other's perspective, the experience is Atman alone. Ikshate. Now Gurudev explains also this word ikshate. What can you see? Ikshate here is put as pashyati, and ikshate, seeing. In that high white heat of meditation, what can we actually see? You are transcending the body, mind, and intellect. So here the word ikshate is, Gurudev is explained in the video talk that this ikshate is nothing but reconfirmation beyond any doubt that that experience was there and is there every time. Seeing is believing, sometimes we say like that. So this ikshate is to gain that experience and feel that experience, and then to experience that reality, infinite, endless, infinite truth without any doubt. No doubt is there thereafter. And then after experiencing that self, there is no more pluralistic. It is only Samadarshana. However, here Gurudev also explains here this O ye children of sin versus O ye children of light. Now, this actually reflects on the post-realization. There are, as per Gurudev's words, there are people who have got that divine experience. That is why he is saying here, even if it be in divine compassion, even if it is from divine compassion, that see, look, I have gained the experience of the divine, but all you fellows are still in the children of sin. You are all children of sin. That differentiation, if it is still able to, if it is present, then that Samadarshina does not exist. That you have not reached that state of Samadarshinaha. So even when, so that is why Swami Ramatita's example is given there, children of light. And even when Gurudev writes the letters, what is written there? Hari Om, blessed self. He addresses everybody as blessed self. So for them, there is nothing but it alone, the Brahman alone, the awareness alone, that alone exists and nothing else exists. Everything else is nothing but expression of that one Brahman. Ishavasya Upanishad has been quoted here. Ishavasya idagam sarvam yat kincha jagatina jagat. Yat kincha, even in the smallest and the biggest, pervading everywhere. That is the definition of Isha Brahman. In the very first verse, fourth and fifth verse also expounds more on the properties of Brahman, expressing its nature. So when that is the nature of Brahman, dualistic never exists, and therefore it was always there, but we have come to know of that experience. Therefore the ikshate, that word has been given after coming to know. For example, you become a violinist after knowing how to play a violin. Before that you are not. In the same way, you become the Brahman after realizing the experience of the Brahman. So let us all aspire to reach the state of Sama Darshinaha and put that into good practice for the service of the society. Sadgurunath Maharaj ki jai.
I would request Jairamji, would you like to share your views today?
Hari Om. Just as Balaji mentioned now, I had an opportunity to be with Kalidas ji. Many of us called him lovingly Dasadan. He was the one who surrendered to the Guru totally. He was a flight purser in Air India, had the opportunity to travel with Gurudev many times. I've seen Gurudev discussing his itinerary with Kali. Gurudev lovingly called him Kali always. So if there is any travel plans in USA, he will say, ask Kali, he will give the most economical route in time as well as save money. Meeting with him, one could spend hours together in Chinmaya Smriti. Last December, I met him at his home. And it was a short visit, but it lasted many hours. There was only old memories sharing. It was a very, very pleasant time. It was like an order from Gurudev to be there in Mumbai to participate in his funeral. There was no plan for me to go to stay in Mumbai that day. And his wife narrated the previous day, he was at Breach Candy Hospital. And the morning routine of the doctor's visit was over, but around 11:30, he expressed to see the doctor. And it never normally, once doctor visits, he never comes again. But on his request, immediately the doctor came. And he says, doctor, I want to have a picture with you. Yes, my friend, why not? And doctor immediately allowed to click a picture with him. And from that hospital bed, it is Breach Candy. They can see the ocean, Arabian Sea there. So he was telling the doctor, see, what a beautiful blue ocean. We all meet there. It is very beautiful there. Yes, my friend, we all once we will meet there. That was his last conversation with the doctor. And after that, he was almost in a... Now, the question he asked is, doctor, how long? Then doctor said, that is not in our hand. That was his last conversation with the doctor. And his wife says later, after that, he did not speak much. Then slowly he was sinking. And a few deep breath, and it was all over. Like it, true Bhakta. One more thing, he said he wanted to listen to that song, Guru Deva Tava Mahaniya Kripa. Whole day, she was requesting me to sing at the funeral, saying that its most favorite lines were Pal Pal Pad Pad Jeevan Pat Par Guru Saath Mere Jeevan Pat Par. A great soul. We all miss him. He considered that even in Ramaniyam or even other times, he said, each one of you is Gurudev. Today's verses under discussion is also the same thing. It says, in troubled times, he said, whenever we say that you hold on to his feet, everything will be smooth. Hari Om Ji.
Hari Om. Thank you, Jaramji, for sharing your memories and with Kali ji. We move to Rajendran ji.
Jairamji has spoken very touching words. I was not fortunate to meet Kalidas ji, but I can understand him. I can meet him through your words and the way he worshipped our Gurudev. And perhaps I think I haven't heard of such a devotee of a Guru, so ardent. Let us offer our tributes, and particularly the words, last words he spoke, it was all touching. Then now coming to the stanzas, this will, you have spoken few words only, but this will, hover in the mind, keep on coming in the mind as a devotee, how he has departed, and those last moments looking into the sea and all. These things always will influence us, particularly when it is very much related to Gurudev. it will, it will pop up in the mind quite often. That is the mental makeup of a normal devotee like us. Coming to the stanzas, it's a continuation actually of a projection of 27th stanza to 28 and 29. The same principle has been told in 3 different perspectives. Like in 27, Prashanta Manasam Hyanam Yoginam Sukham Uttamam Upaidi Shantarasam Brahma Bhutama Akalmasham. There, the yogi sees the Brahman. He witnesses, Shantarasam, Shantarajasam. His rajas becomes Shantam, means that actions, all actions are coming to an end. Then Brahma Bhutam Akalmasham, without any taint, Brahma Bhutam, he becomes the Brahman. Here, he becomes the Brahman. He sees the Brahman, he becomes the Brahman, and in 28th stanza, Yunjannevam Sadatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasha Sukhena Brahmasparsham Atyantam Sugam Ashnute. Here what he is, he enjoys it. First he sees, he becomes, then first he sees the Brahman, he becomes the Brahman, then he enjoys. The yogi always engaging the mind, thus in practice of yoga, freed from his sins, easily enjoys the infinite bliss of Brahman contact. Here the language used by Gurudev, when we read Gurudev's texts, then we don't feel like reading anything else, because the language is so super, it is highly influencing us. The words such words are used here. Engaging himself thus in the battle for evolution and the consequent inward mastery, a meditator steadily grows out of the shadowy regions of his own spiritual ignorance and imperfections to smile forth in luxurious extravagance into the sparkling sunshine of knowledge. The way Gurudev is expressing, it's outstanding. We can't even imagine such language. So see, then roaring silence. How could be the silence could be roaring? Because when we realize such things, it will come like roaring. That is why it is mentioned roaring silence. So here he enjoys it. In this 20s, the way he enjoys the Brahman has been explained in 28th stanza. I'm not taking much time. So coming to 29th. Here another thing is, it's the way Gita has been designed. The explanations, the stanzas have been designed in such a way that it's like like a garland. First stanza we can say, the 27th we can say, or 20 Dhyanavastita Tadgadena Manasa Pashyandiyam Yogino. There it is, Pashyandi, there he is looking, he is seeing it. Then coming to 29th, Brahman, he say, he is talking about the Ishavasya Upanishad. The essence is Ishavasya Upanishad given there. Like Yastu, Sarvani Karmani Atmanyevanu Pashyati, Sarva Bhudeshu cha Atmanam Tado na Vijugupsade. That exactly, that interest has been translated into this stanza. The wise man who perceives all beings as distinct from his own self at all, and his own self as the self of every being, he does not, by virtue of that that perception, hates anyone. So he is enjoying. He is he is seeing everything around him as the Brahman only. And when the stanza concludes with the last para, again in Gita's fifth chapter 18th, that Vidya Vinaya Sambanne Brahmane Gavi Hastini Shuni Chaiva Swapageja Pandida Samadarshina. With the understanding in our mind, the stanza becomes quite clear when it says he beholds the self in all beings and equally beholds all beings in the self. Such a perfect one who is realized the actual unity in the world of diversity alone can afford to entertain the equality of vision in all circumstances and conditions. On a noble Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a pariah. Vidya Vinaya Sampanne. So here he cannot divide, discriminate one being from the other. Everything is self only. That is the reason somebody was saying, no, when Gurudev writes letter, blessed self. Exactly, that is, that is the way it should be written. Realized souls write this way. So this is what I understand. Hari Om.
Hari Om. Thank you, Rajendra. Nagaraj, would you like to share your views?
No, I will not be talking today. Hari
Okay. Hari Om. Nanduji?
Hari Om. Very nicely explained by everyone. Just few thoughts. I think most of the things is already covered. In the 28th sloka in commentary, Gurudev mentioned example about the iron. So just to iron, how it is like it is put in the fire just to remove the impurities and all that thing. So similarly with the meditation, whatever like mala and everything, we need to be removed from like our thing. And there is like further example which is about like balloon. So in a balloon, the air is being filled. It is not brought from somewhere else. It is from the outside space only. And once that balloon is blast, that air is merged with the outside air. And same thing, which is like Acharya says to us, like a Jivo Brahmeva Napara. Jiva is not different than Brahman. But we feel that we are separate. Why? Because of like avidya. And the like Brahma Samsparsha, a very nice word it came. And Gurudev has also mentioned like very nice commentary on that one. For me, it looks like in Samartha Ramdasa, he mentioned in Dasbodha, 3 types of like bhaktas he mentioned in the in Dasbodha. One is about like abhakta. So abhakta, within us, there is no one is abhakta. If someone is abhakta, he will not come maybe in this class, in Chinmay Study Group. Most of us, we are like vibhakta. What is meant by vibhakta? We are separate and we are worshipping to someone else. Whereas the last quality, which is like bhakta is already merged with either Gurudeva or your deity or whatever. And that is the quality, and that is the like last bhakti, what we say, like Atma Nivedan. So like completely merging. So these are 3 different qualities that you mentioned. Gurudev have mentioned very nicely, quoting the Ishavasya Upanishada and the first 4 shlokas. And very first shloka, which is about like Om Ishavasya Jagatan Jagatena Taktena Bhujita Magardakasya Siddhanam. Gandhiji used to say about this first shloka itself, this one shloka itself is more than sufficient for mankind to survive. And what is the conclusion and coming out of this shloka? If you see this, everything belongs to God. And we are here just to utilize that. Maybe suppose just imagine, maybe I'm having maybe 1 kg of gold. Maybe I will be having that maybe today, but yesterday maybe someone else was the owner of that gold. And maybe tomorrow Someone else may be owner of that gold. But we are here just to utilize that. That gold is not going to vanish, but the person who is going to utilize, maybe today is there, tomorrow he may not be there. And that is what I feel. And Samarth Ramdas in relation to that, he always mentioned like, "Ahe tituke devache, aise vartane nishayache." It's everything is belongs to God, and we are here just to utilize that, and just utilize that wisely. And the in shloka of Ishavasana, which you mentioned like we know they did how it is like vultures. They just try to like extract something, but we should not do like that. And that is the message from the first shloka. And the very important, which is about like fourth and fifth shloka of Ishavasya Upanishad, which is talking about like Atman. And fifth shloka I will see, which is like Taddiketan Taddure. The meaning of that shloka is the Atma Tattva, which is there very close to you. Very close to you means what? It itself you are the one. Otherwise, if you are not on that path, it is like far beyond to you. Taddure. How much far it might be? It might be like birth, millions of birth and birth. And that itself is mentioned in the Gita, like Bahunam Janmanam Ante. Maybe after the so many births, maybe you will be able to achieve. And if you are on that path, then only it could be possible. And that is having a relation with the next shloka as well. On the 29th shloka, I feel this relation with, and there are like many shlokas within the Gita itself. And in 18th chapter, the shloka which is about Ishvara Sarvabhutanam Hrideshu Arjuna Tishtati. I mean, if the person or yogi, if he is able to see the God in each and every person, that the thing we should be able to achieve that. And Dhaneshwar Maharaj says about that. Jeje behte bhuta tete mani bhagavanta. Whatever bhoot, that doesn't mean only like humans, but maybe any animals or anything. If we are able to see God in those all things, so that's how the achievement we should be able to do that. And in the commentary itself, Gurudeva mentioned about the child of sin, child of light, and Dr. Sanjay may elaborate on this. And for me, it looks like the one thing is coming in like our scripture, which we are like Amrutasya Putra. So there is nothing that we are like a child of sin or something. We are already Amrutasya Putra, but with some reason we came down. And I heard one story about Swami Ramatirtha, and maybe Dr. Sanjay ji can correct me also. So someone asked Dr. Swamiji Ramatirtha ji, "Have you seen the God?" So Swamiji replied to that person, "Yes, I have seen. This is in front of you itself. And if you have ability, you see it." This is what the reply Swamiji has given. And Gurudeva mentioned very nicely about the examples like the mud in pot, the gold in ornaments. Like gold in ornaments, we know all these examples. Whenever we take this gold to the goldsmith or something, and just to change that ornament, he's just looking gold inside that. But whereas we see as an ornament, maybe today's bangle or something like that. And the one in Mundak Upanishad, one question was asked by Shishya to Gurudeva. What is the one thing which once we realize that no need to know any other thing? So that is one thing we should be able to reach out. And by ending the 29th shloka, Gurudeva has a reference, the Rajendra ji already mentioned about that, about the Vidya Vinay Sampanne, so which is linking to 5th chapter. And this shloka, particularly 29th shloka, and Bahunam Janmanam Ante, whereas our like saintly people, they say, but yes, it is possible within this birth also, but we should have that much eager to reach up to that level. Very well.
Hariom. Pradeep ji.
Hariom. Pranams to Kalidas ji. And thank you, Jayaram ji, for reliving those moments, at least a few, and narrating the last words of Kalidasan ji. I'm also was unfortunate not able to meet him personally. But of course, I met him in the online session. And this is, in this verse, it is said, the Brahman contact and all that. So it is, to reach out to Gurudev, sort of like the Brahman contact. These are the people with whom we can, the association with them or the contact with them, you actually get that feel of reaching Gurudev. One is Shivaramanji, who has been with Gurudev every time, and we met him in Siddhabari. And this Kalidasanji's and the way they, all these words, verses what we are learning now, like Guruna Vichalyate. Guruji always says this verse is one of the most close to Guruji's heart. This verse, Guruna Vichalyate. Tam Vidya, that particular verse. Yam labdva chaparam labham manyate nadhigam tata yasmin sthito na dukkhena Guruna Vichalyate. Whatever may be the highest of the pain also, you will not move, because if you are in this, once you get this yoga. So that is, so even at the last day, he was very, and these some of the photos which we have seen in the group where Kalidasanji's last moments, but the face is so quiet and peaceful in the hospital bed. And he's speaking, Jaramji, what he explained about his presence of mind and all that. So this is what it is achieved through this, as the yogis, as Lord explains. So we are seeing them practically in our view, how that can be achieved. So this particular verse, Yunjan Evam Sadatmanam, again it is repeated from the 15th verse. 15th verse was Yunjan Evam Sadatmanam Yogi Niyata Manasa. And here it is Yogi Vigata Kalmasha. You have reached to another level. Niyata Manasa, to withdrawing from all the Shabda, the Vishayas. Yunjan. And Sanjay ji, I remember Sanjay ji saying the first word Sanjay ji heard in our sessions, Gita session, is Yunjan. That is a present continuous word Yunjan. That is continuously in meditative mood. Yunjan Evam. Sada Atmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasha. So Niyata Manasa to Vigata Kalmasha. Vigata Kalmasha is where all the kalmashas, all the papas or whatever, or the sins are removed. That is what, I mean, in Patanjali Yoga Sutra, Sanjay ji has explained in detail about the antarayas. So Shankaracharya's explanation, he says that antarayas, vigata antaraya, is that vigata kalmasha, that yunjan, that state is all the antarayas, that vyadhi, sthana, samshaya, pramada, alasya, avirati, brandi darshana, alabdhabu migatvad, avastita, anavastita, Chitta Vikshepa Antaraya. That 9 Antarayas, the impediments to the yoga. So like the Gurudev's explanation, the balloon goes up, dropping all the weights down. So once it goes, as the air is thinner, it goes up and up and up. And at the end, that it breaks and the the Gata Akasha merges with the Chidakasha. So that state is what is all explained in various, and what it gives is also explained there in Tam Vidya Dukkha Samyoga Yoga Yogam Yogam. Yogam is defined so beautifully in this as the Vyogam from the Dukkha Samyogam. And it is a Nichayena Yoktavyam, Yoktavyaha. You must do it. Anirvinna Chetasa, without any slackness or without any. So that those andrayas are all removed. So that is the state, the Yunjan Nevam Sadatmanam Yogi Vigata Kalmasha Sukhena, without any this thing, Anayasena is Shankaracharya's explanation. Sukhena means Anayasena, without any problem. Brahma Samsparsham Atyantam Sukham Asmate. There earlier 15th verse it was Shantim Nirvana Paramam, and here it is Brahma Samsparsham Atyantam Sukham Asmate. And then what happens, such a yogi who is Sarvatra Samadarshana and Yoga Yuktatma, what happens to him? He says Sarva Bhutastam Atmanam. He is in all the beings, and Sarva Bhutani, all the beings, Cha Atmani, in the Atman. So that is the that is what he sees, Ikshate. So that is the state. So once the from the ultimate point of view, when you see everything in a very as the self alone. So that vision correction is what it is addressed in various so powerful verses. Very great to be learning this with all of you. It has really helped us in this come out of the difficult situations. Also, thank you all for praying for my father. For him also, I was very lucky, very happy to that my elder brother was doing Bhagavatam, Ekadasha Skandam, from last July 2021 to this 28th of June, he concluded Uddhavadesham. In spite of all his hospitalization or whatever, this class he has not stopped. And the Uddhavadesham he concluded on 28th June, and 29th morning, my father passed away. So it was a great blessing to see my father with along with mother in this Ekadasha Skandam class, and also before Bhagavad Gita, many sessions he has taken during the COVID period, the last 2 years, where I could not go there and stay with him. So every day I was watching, seeing him in the online. And then later on, the 2 occasions I could go and stay 10 days each. So I was very happy. And he had a peaceful end. And thank you very much. Hari Om. Pranam.
Thank you, Pradeep. Hari Om. Anyone else? Meenakshi ji, would you like to share some views?
Hari Om, Manish, no, I don't want.
Okay, then we take to Dr. Jadhav, please.
Hari Om. As was stated earlier, this is Atma Sanyamana Yoga. The very fact that this is very closely related to Raja Yoga every shloka will be understood better in the light of Raja Yoga, and that is the reason why Acharya himself and Madhusudan Saraswati in their commentaries have focused themselves on the discussion through the Patanjali Yoga Shastra. We have already seen that Sukham Uttamam, in the last shloka, the Bhagavan says that Upayati Shanta Rajasam Yoginam Sukham Uttamam. Now, Uttama Sukham now has become Atyantam Sukham. What is the difference between Uttam and Atyantam? Again, Bhagavad Gita shall not use even a comma without a significance. Uttamam, Taratamyam, Tama is the superlative degree, as we call it in English. A comparative and a superlative. Positive, comparative, superlative are the degrees. Tara, Tama, superlative. Where the happiness or the bliss has its highest manifestation is Uttamam. Then what is Atyantam Sukham? Ati Anta. Atyanta. Ati Anta. E plus A becomes Ya. Swara Sandhi. Atyantam. Atyeti Antam iti Atyantam. Atyeti is to devour or to eat or to finish. What is to finish? Antam is to be finished. When the end of anything is devoured or finished or completely eaten up, then it is called Atyantam. And this is nothing else but infinity. There is a difference between highest and infinity. Highest is touching the top, but it does not exclude not staying at the top. Being at the top of forever, the infinitude of the Sukham is Atyantik Sukham. That means thus far, no further, and forever. Thus far, no further is Uttamam. Thus far, no further, and forever. And forever not in reference with the time, because it is beyond time. That is what Atyantam Sukham. The shloka mentions Sukhena Sukham Ashnute. How can you, this statement itself appears superfluous. By happiness, you get happiness. Such statement cannot be made. Sukhena is Trutiya, instrumental case. By Trutiya, you means by Sukha, you get Sukha. By money, you get money. Doesn't make any sense. Then how is it that Bhagavad Gita mentions it? Here, Sukhena means by lack of efforts, effortlessly, easily. Then what is effortful Sukham? Our Sukham is effortful Sukham. Why? There are so many obstacles we have for the Sukham. Our inability to get anything. There are so many reasons about it. Similarly, the way a normal person would try to approach an object will get an obstacle because of so many factors. Similarly, the yogi is trying to obtain or reach the Atma Avastha or the Purusha, and he gets obstacles. Now, obstacles of a yogi in meditation are different than the obstacles of a common man in obtaining the objects, which is natural. The obstacles that the yogi gets when he starts the journey of meditation is described or called as Antaraya, as Pradeepji rightly said. Antaraya is an obstacle. Vyadhi, Sthyan, Samshaya, Pramada, Alasya, all the 9 obstacles which were described, Bhranti Darshana, Alabdha Bhumikatva, Anavasthitatva, even the yogi, when he arrives on the plane of higher consciousness, where he is experiencing almost non-dual bliss, even that stage gets dropped. It's like a mountaineer reaching at Mount Everest and again suddenly slipping down. Anavastitvam. The avastha is not maintained for forever. Before that, avastha is not at all obtained. Alabdha bhumikatva, not reaching to the top. Then reaching to the top, but not maintaining oneself at the top. All this, starting from alasya, vyadhi, disease. But for that matter, the lowest of the obstacle would be alasya, styana. Styana would mean that he would have incompetence. A carpenter cannot do a goldsmith's job. Styanam. The buddhi is not helping. So starting from the fundamental obstacles or elementary obstacles to the highly refined obstacles, there are obstacles after obstacles for the yogi when he is ascending to the final path. Those obstacles are called antaraya. When all these obstacles are absent, then it is sukhena. That is the meaning of the word sukhena as given by Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj. Our buddhi cannot understand the meaning of the word unless seen from the bright sunshine of those who have realized the goal, like Gurudev or Madhusudan Saraswati Maharaj or Acharya himself. Sukhena atyantam sukham ashnute. How? By means of Brahma Sausparsham. We say Brahmi Bhutatva. Here the shlok says Brahma Sausparsha. By touching the Brahma. And Brahmi Bhuta by becoming the Brahman. And this is what is picked up by the Dvaitavadi, as rightly Gurudeva pointed out. Mind well, the tradition of Hindu dharma is so great that the people having different opinions about the Veda, they debate with each other with full respect to others. Under the auspices of those who consider Veda as their pramanya, called Astika Darshana, even in that the Shada Darshanas differ from each other. Even in those Shada Darshanas, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga, Sankhya, Purva Mimamsa and Uttar Mimamsa, in the Uttar Mimamsa itself, there are Kevala Advaita, Shuddha Advaita, Vishishta Advaita, Dvaita Advaita, Bheda Abheda. All these differences, even though they are there, they respect each other's opinion. That is why Madhvacharya, who is the founder of Dvaita Sampradaya, in his preface has written about Advaita so beautifully. That means you study the opponent's opinion by respecting the opponent and then thrash him in a very susanskruta manner. That is the beauty of Hindu Dharma. Because Gurudev had studied this, he could immediately pick up the Sansparshas being taken by the Dvaiti people. Now, what is the Dvaita's Siddhanta? The Dvaita propounded by Madhvacharya is based on the fact that the Almighty, the Lord, the Brahman, is always a separate entity, and the Jiva is a separate entity. Jiva Brahma Aikya cannot be there, not possible. Jivo Brahma Aparaha. Shankaracharya says, Jivo Brahma na paraha. That is the difference. Now, at the same time, one has to give the explanation why he said so. So the explanation given by Madhvacharya is a jiva being always subservient, minor, sant, laghu, compared to the Brahman, can become attribute-wise closer to the Brahman, yet he cannot be the Brahman. A soldier can become very powerful, win the battles, become a Sardar, then he can become a chief of the cavalry, he can become chief of the army staff, but he cannot become the king, because king is only one. This is what the Dvaita philosophy says. Now, Gurudev has, in a short speech, given the counter argument of Acharya, and he himself being in the tradition of Shankaracharya, he's given the counter argument. The argument is very simple. If the Brahman is Vibhurvyapya, he is the only one present everywhere, then how it is possible that the person who is witnessing and what is witnessed will be there in realization as two? The two would mean you are yet to realize. Why? Because Brahman is the only existence. When will you come to know that he is the only existence? When you stop existing as the second person. So Dvaita cannot be substantiated. And that is why Brahma Sansparsham means being one with the Brahman. Being one with the Brahma. Brahmi Bhutatva. Brahma Sadrushatva na. Brahmi Bhutatva. And that is why Sukhena, effortlessly, Brahma Sparsham, if happens, Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. Now, this is also a partly superfluous thing. Atyantam Sukham Ashnute means Sukham is a experience which speaks of lack of dukkham. When you say darkness, light is automatically anticipated, because if light is not at all present and I want to say darkness, I cannot, because Dvandva, the two things have to exist for one to say yes or no. Light is there, so we can refer to the darkness. Otherwise, darkness has no meaning itself. Absence of light is darkness. That means light's presence is already presupposed. Similarly, Sukham, when you say, Dukkham is presupposed. And in Brahman, there is no Sukham and no Dukkham. Then Atyantik Sukham Ashnute from where, sir? Purva Paksha. This is how the Vadam is conducted. This shloka is not right. Sukham Ashnute, they are saying, Sukham is present only when in the relative contrast Dukkham is present. And if that is present, then it cannot be Brahman. Then Brahma being attributeless, how Sukham can be there? And the explanation is, there is something that is there in the Brahman which otherwise cannot be described in the words. And you being into the normal world, and the highest thing that you know is Sukham. So we are using the word Sukham, but it is a state of infinite bliss. Now, infinite bliss we have never experienced in our life. We will never experience in our life unless we become Brahman. A disease is caused by a bacteria when a scientist tells it to us. The common man says, show me the bacteria. And the scientist says, no, to see the bacteria, you need a microscope. No, I don't have a microscope, but show me the bacteria. Then the scientist has no choice but to say that bacteria is like, ant, very small creature, it is like that. He is using the analogy of words known to the commoner to explain the scientific truth. Similarly, the spiritual scientists here our own spiritual mother Bhagavad Gita is trying to use common word to describe uncommon thing. That is why Sukhena Sukham Ashnute Brahma Samsparsham Atyantam Sukham Ashnute. Being Sukhi and becoming Sukhi, these are two different things. Sir, we become happy. We are not happiness. We become happy. Happiness is away from me. That is a must for my happiness. I am happy with my son's progress. The happiness has to be distant from me. But if I am the abode of happiness, I am myself happiness, then that is being happy. This being happy, the beingness is what is there in that infinite Brahman. So it is called infinite bliss, untented. And when do you get that? Gurudev has given the glimpse of his own exercise. The first paragraph directly speaks, if one really closely reads it, Gurudeva is talking of personal experience, very rare to get normally. He says, in the brilliant white heat of meditation, after the halt moment, what is this halt moment, sir? Halt moment is when the vrittis have disappeared from the chitta, in the yogic language or in the commoner's language, when the mind has been completely subdued of its entire movement. No thoughts are coming, no sensuous perceptions are happening, nothing is happening, sir. When nothing happens, the mind ends. That's called halt movement, vritti layavastha. Then that is the last frontier line up to which human efforts can raise the mind. That's it. Enough. You cannot do anything more than this. All that maximum you could do is over. Then who will do the next thing? The next thing will be done by the Tattvam that is there. The Tattvam in embodied form is called Guru, Tapovan Maharaj. And in unembodied form, it is called Brahman. Brahmavid, Guru, Brahmeva Bhavati. So Tapovan Maharaj was the living Brahma who guided Gurudeva. After his own effort, went up to the halt moment, the Vritti Layavastha. The last long jump cannot be done without the help of the Guru, and that is a dictum of the Shastras. At that moment of time, at the pinnacle of movement, at the pinnacle of meditation, as Gurudeva says, mind shatters itself, drops down the ego and merges with the Supreme. Space in the balloon automatically and naturally merges with the space outside. Sir, he is directly referring, Gurudeva is directly referring to Ghatakasha and Mathakasha. The space in the pot, the Mathakasha, is now, the pot is broken. The ego is gone. The air inside the pot, the space inside the pot is now one. When did it become one? Sir, it was anyway one. Only the adjunct upadhi called pot, the clay, was putting it into Ghatakash. The space, when it got delimited by the pot, it was called Ghatakash. Now the pot is broken, those both spaces merged. When? Right there when the pot got broken. Breaking up pot and mingling of the space is simultaneous. Eka samaya vachchede. This is what happens, and this is called samsparsha. Why? The space inside the pot is now going to touch and merge. Touch and merge happens at the same time. That is Brahma Samsparsham. Here again, the question comes, after this merger, after the space has become one, after the individual has become Brahman, and he's still alive. Gurudev was alive, Tapovan Maharaj was alive, Shivanand Maharaj was alive, Shankaracharya was alive, Madhusudan Saraswati was alive. After realization, how do they then feel about the world? All the effort done so far was to extricate oneself out of the world. You wanted to go out of the chaos. So you left the entire community and ran away into the solitude for the meditation. Now you have come back to the community. How do you see the community? Same the way you were seeing earlier, or there is a change? There is a change. What kind of change it is? Sarva bhutastha, sarva bhutastha. Now it is not only my brother, my sister, my family, my community, my nation, my country. No, my world also. No, my universe, my cosmos. Sarva bhuta. Bhuta, that who comes into becoming. Everything else other than being is bhutam. Bhutva. By becoming anything that has become, then insentient, sentient, animate, inanimate, everything, sarva bhutam, bhutastha atmanam. Now the bhuta is not seen as a bhutam, then directly the scintillating light called consciousness or the chaitanyam is seen in everything. Right now we spoke about Kalidas Ji Maharaj. He was so much attached to this thing, and Jairam Ji stayed there. Jairam Ji, Kalidas Ji, Pradeep Ji, Balaji Maharaj, Nanda Kumar Ji, all Ji. This is what we are referring to, the physical body by the physical body. The physical body of Jairam Ji referred to physical body of Kalidas Ji Maharaj. Then he expressed his emotions from his emotional body about the emotions of Kalidas Ji Maharaj. Then his intellectual body of Jairam Ji tries to talk about the intellectual body of Kalidas Ji Maharaj. But beyond these three bodies, as Gurudeva has said, there is a communication, the fourth one, the Turyavastha one, which we are not still having. When Rajiv Gandhi passed away in the assassination attempt, Gurudeva in Jaslok hospital, when he was recuperating, he said, another balloon burst. Why? The Upadhi is only gone from one place to another place. The Atma Tattvam is still there, and it was there, and it will be there. This ability to see in every bhuta, the consciousness alone and only. A doctor, when he is practicing and there are 100 people sitting outside for his appointment, when he comes in, he walks towards his clinic in the OPD and starts calling one by one everybody. For him, there are no 100 people. There are 100 patients because he's looking only the disease in them. A beautiful lady comes. He's not interested in the beauty. He says, is there a cough you have? Oh, she's suffering from respiratory infection. He's focusing on the disease part of all. So for in his eyes, all the patients are diseased people. Although a little crude and a wrong analogy, a Atmajnani, because he himself has realized the Atma Tattvam, he sees Atma Tattvam everywhere. Tato na vijigupsate, Ishavasya Upanishad says, yastu sarvani bhutani atman eva anupashyata. Atman eva. Atma is the only thing existing. Eva anupashyata. Sarva bhuteshu cha atmana. Tato na vijigupsate. There is no second feeling, good, bad, whatever. Somebody came and told Gurudeva, what a speech, sir, you gave, what pravachanam you did. Gurudeva said, yes, I also liked it. कोई निंदो कोई विंदो, चलूंगी चाल अनूठी, राणा जी मारे बदनामी लागे मीठी. Mirabai used to say, what difference does it make if somebody says something to be मारो तो गिरिधर गोपाल, दूसरो न कोई. Everywhere Giridhara Gopalam. And this is not an imagination, flight of India, or a hypothetical situation. It is a factual experience of the realized people. Sarva bhutastha atmanam, sarva bhutani cha atmani. I am the Brahma, everything else is Brahman. I am the Atman, everything else is Atman. Such a thing, the one who sees ikshate. Now this ikshate word is again društva, pashyan and ikshate. See, pashyan and ikshate also there is difference. Ikshate is a casual, cursory look. While driving to the office, we see lots of people driving and there are trees and whatnot. We note them, but we don't note them. This is our daily experience. We see them, but we don't see them. Why? If somebody asks you, did you see the tree while you were driving? Yeah, I saw it. But you don't feel that that seeing has done anything to you. Why? It's a casual, cursory look. That is ikshate. Why casual, cursory look? It's all mine. It's all me. When you look towards your finger, do you feel, oh my God, it's my finger, such a beautiful finger? No, say it's mine. So I just have a casual look at it. I note it. Noting a thing and observing a thing and experiencing a thing, these are three different things. That being the ikshate, ekoham bhaushyam prajayehi, that concept itself, the way it is described in Upanishad, is the Almighty, omnipotent. When he creates this world, he looks at it, ikshate, yoga yuktatma sarvatra samadarshanaha. Gurudev has given a very important statement. All religions in the world are great, but indeed none of them as perfect as the religion of Hindus. If by religion we mean the science of self-perfection. See, he has respected all the religion, and yet between the equals he found out who is the best one. How? Every religion tries to see that the person becomes perfect like the God. So self-perfection is described in all the religions. Everybody is describing reaching the Mount Everest. But after reaching the Mount Everest, being there at the top with the feeling that of enjoyment or joy that I have reached Mount Everest is what every religion talks. Hinduism talks about again looking back from that top of the Mount Everest towards everything that is down below as me. Yogi Aurobindo has described in his entire literature one important aspect: escaping the bondages of the samsara or the prapancha and then ultimately going towards the ultimate truth is one part of the ascent. The descent is also equally important. And when that descent happens, that is a glorious descent from the person who has seen the truth, son of the truth. From the darkness, tamasoma, jyotirgamaya, you go towards the sun, reach the sun, and then bring back the sunshine back to the earth. This glorious descent is only described in Hinduism. And that is why when Buddhists realized, initially it was all becoming Buddha, But when it was realized that if I become Buddha and get the nirvana, what about the nirvana of so many of them who are struggling to get nirvana? And that is how the concept of Mahayana Buddhism came. And that is why Buddha will be born again and again till the last being receives nirvana. The same concept came through Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. When Swami Vivekananda insisted on Nirvikalpa Samadhi, he said, fee upon you, Narendra, you're asking for your own salvation, you're not worried about the salvation of others. That is Sarvatra Samadarshana. And that is why Gurudev has given the reference of Swami Ramatirtha, another Swami par excellence. See, in Hinduism is the only religion where there is no shaitan or Satan. There is no mention of Satan and Satan in entire scripture of Hinduism. It is rampant in other religions. Why? Because we do not give even the credence to Satan or Shaitan, because it is a temporary, illusory phenomena. The essential being the good and the best. Shrunvanto amrutasya putraha. Upanishads shout from the rooftop, oh, the sons of the nectar. That is how we are referred. That is why Ramatirtha, oh, ye children of light, he's the only Indian Hindu sadhu to have given an absolutely mesmerizing lecture in Persian at a place where nobody can venture to even enter if you're not a Muslim. I'm talking about the biggest prayer hall of Cairo, in wherein Swami Ramatirtha, on his return from America, gave impromptu, without any invitation, a lecture on religion in Persian, and all the people were spellbound, so much so that they all touched him, hugged him. I'm talking at the pulpit of Islam's highest university and the mosque there in Cairo. That is why Gurudeva says that the meditator, on transcending his intellect, becomes the self, and to the self there is nothing but the self everywhere. Transcending the intellect, mark the word. The last bastion that you transcend is intellect, and the last halt, as Gurudeva says, is all the effort done by these to that point. And at the last point, while closing, one mention must be made. Yoga chitta vritti nirodha. You control and restrain the vrittis of the mind. That is yoga. If you see the Bhushundi Upakhyana given by in Laghu Yoga Vasishtha, Vasishtha Muni tells to Ram that Rama, the enlightenment is different and yoga is different. The one who realizes himself, the realization can be of two sub-minor differences. One is when the mind is understood to be separate than yourself, when the person who is acting on the stage realizes he is not the king, then he keeps looking from the spectator towards the drama. Similarly, a yogi watches the mind and looks at the creation, because for the yogi, the creation is real. That is what is Sampradnyat Samadhi. But Shankaracharya and the Acharyas believe that once you realize that you are Atma Tattvan, the mind itself stops working. And when mind stops working, world will not be existing, because it will be, since it is illusory, will be sublated. And in that case, nothing will remain except the Brahman. That is the subtlest, finest difference between yoga and the Jnana Yoga. Raja Yoga, Jnana Yoga differ at the last of the last moment. Otherwise, they are same. That is why Shankaracharya did not subscribe to yoga. He subscribed only to Vichara. It is why it is called as Jnana Yoga. This is, in short, the meaning of two of these great shlokas of Atma Sanyamana Yoga. Hari Om.
Hari Om, Sukumar.
सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः, सर्वे सन्तु निरामय, सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु, मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत्। असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। हरिः ओम श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः। हरिः ओम। Let us take our pledge. We stand as one family, bound to each other with love and respect. We serve as an army, courageous and disciplined, ever ready to fight against all low tendencies and false values within and without us. We live honestly the noble life of sacrifice and service, producing more than what we consume and giving more than what we take. We seek the Lord's grace, keep us on the path of courage and wisdom. May thy grace and blessings flow through us to the world around us. We believe that the service of our country is the service of the Lord of Lords, and devotion to the people is the devotion to the Supreme Self. We know our responsibilities, give us the ability and courage to fulfill them. Om Tat Sat. Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Hari Om.
Can I ask what happened to, where is Ishwarji these days?
He's in the
I
US.
understand United States, US.
Ah, okay.
Hari Om.
Okay.
Hari Om.